If you've been in crypto for more than 5 minutes, you know that feeling, that knot in your stomach, the constant worry about a crash. But what if I told you that fear is mostly based on a big misunderstanding? Today, we're going to use a really simple framework to see what's really going on with the Plasm token. Yeah, it's a universal feeling, right? You see a massive token supply number, you see one of those scary red candles, and your brain just jumps to the absolute worst-case scenario. It's totally natural. We've all been there. But here's the thing. What if most people are panicking over a number that doesn't actually matter? The real story, the thing that actually tells you about the stability of the project, is hidden just below the surface. To really get a handle on the Plasm token, you need to think of it like an iceberg. Most of its bulk is hidden, completely stable, and the only part that's even a little bit dangerous is that tiny tip sticking out of the water. Okay, so here it is. This is the entire plasma supply. Broken down, as you can see, we've got 4 states of matter here: ice, water, steam, and slush. Each one has a totally different job. So let's start with the biggest, most important piece of the puzzle. 55%. Yeah, that's over half of the entire supply, all in this one category. And honestly, this is probably the most important number you need to understand in this whole explainer. This 55% is the ice. These are all the tokens that people have staked. They've locked them up to support the network. They are, for all intents and purposes, frozen solid. They can't be sold. This is the massive stable foundation of the entire iceberg. So if the ice is this huge, solid foundation, what's surrounding it? Well, that brings us to our second biggest chunk, which makes up 27% of the total. This is the water. Now, in crypto terms, you'd call this the liquidity pool, but just think of it as the ocean our iceberg is floating in. The deeper the water, the smaller the splash a single buy or sell is going to make. And at 27%, this is a pretty deep ocean. It's a huge cushion against any sudden moves. Okay, next up, we have a part of the supply that isn't solid or liquid. 13% of all the tokens have a totally different story. This is steam. These are tokens that the protocol has actually bought back and then, poof, destroyed them. They're burned. They have evaporated and are gone for good, which makes every single token that's left just a little bit more rare and a little bit more valuable. And that just leaves us with this tiny little slice, 5%. I know it seems small, but this is the number that causes all the fear, and it's the one we absolutely have to wrap our heads around. And here is the absolute key takeaway. This 5%, this is the slush. It's the loose, slippery ice right on the surface. It is the only part of the entire token supply that is liquid and can actually be sold on the market today. So when you hear people panicking about the total supply, they're looking at the whole iceberg. The real immediate sell pressure is just this tiny 5% of slush. Okay, so we've established the immediate threat is actually pretty small. But how does the protocol actively manage this slush and protect the iceberg? Well, that's where its defense system comes in, and you can think of them as spigots that can control the flow. The protocol basically has 2 main defensive plays. It can turn on the buy and burn spigot, which turns that dangerous slush into harmless steam, shrinking the supply forever, or it can use the buy and build spigot, which turns that slush into more water, making our protective cushion even deeper. 2 different tools for 2 different jobs. All right, this next part is huge. It gets to one of the biggest misunderstandings about the whole protocol, and it's the one that causes the most fear for, well, no good reason. We're going to debunk the scariest number you see on the stats page. So you look at the stats page and your eyes get wide because you see a number like pool payout, $311,000. And your first thought is, oh my gosh, if all of that gets sold at once, this project is toast. But here's the secret. That's not how it works. It's not even close. This is the critical difference you have to understand. That giant payout number, that's just an on-paper budget. It's not cash in someone's hand. The number that shows you the actual, real-world sell pressure that can happen each day is the daily released amount. And as you can see, it's a tiny, tiny fraction of that scary budget. Let me give you a simple way to think about it. Imagine a bakery has a plan to bake 1,000 cakes. That's the payout. But they put 990 of those cakes straight into a deep freezer, locked away for later. Only 10 cakes actually make it to the front counter to be sold today. That's the daily released amount. You only have to worry about the 10 cakes on the street, not the hundreds in the freezer. Okay, let's tackle another big one, the role of the vault.
A lot of people think it's this giant war chest, but its actual job is way smarter than that.
You see this big number in the vault and you think, awesome, we've got all this money to buy up the price if it dips. That is wrong. You can't just sell off the vault's assets without causing other problems. The vault isn't the ammo. The vault is the seed you plant to grow the ammo.
This slide shows you the real engine, how it actually works. Step 1. Revenue comes into the vault. Step 2. The vault, our seed, uses that to buy bonds that generate income. Step 3. Those bonds produce a steady stream of yield. That's the fruit from our seed. And finally, step 4. It's this yield, this fruit, that provides the daily cash to power those defensive spigots. The protocol is built to live off the interest, not by spending the principal. So after breaking all of this down, the different parts of the supply, the defensive systems, the real cash flow, let's put it all back together. How solid is this iceberg, really? So let's just run it back one last time. You have a massive, unmovable foundation of staked ice. You have a deep ocean of water providing liquidity to absorb any shocks. That leaves only a tiny, thin layer of slush as the actual immediate threat. And that slush is being actively managed by a defense system that's funded by a sustainable, real yield engine. You know, when you stop panicking about the size of the whole mountain and you actually start analyzing what the iceberg is made of, the picture becomes incredibly clear. The foundation is huge, the cushion is strong, and the actual day-to-day danger is remarkably small. And now you've got the framework to see it for yourself.